12 governesses had stormed out of the estate in just 1 week, each vowing never to return. Most didn't even make it to supper. But as the shouting reverberated through the oak-paneled corridors and a porcelain vase shattered against the wall, the tycoon's daughter, wild-eyed and untamed, stood grinning at the havoc she'd unleashed. No one could manage her until a man in faded overalls, weathered hands, and a calm, unwavering gaze stepped through the grand doors, holding his young daughter's hand. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're reading from, and don't forget to follow for more stories like this. Let's begin. The wrought iron gates creaked as they parted, admitting a dusty red pickup truck that looked absurdly out of place among the sleek limousines in the courtyard. Inside the cab, Daniel Reed glanced in the rearview mirror at his daughter, Emma, who was quietly clutching a stuffed bunny, oblivious to the oddity of this job offer. The estate loomed ahead, all stone arches and towering windows, the kind of place Daniel had only glimpsed in films. He parked, stepped out, and before he could close the door, the massive front entrance swung open. "You're late," a voice barked. A statuesque woman in a navy blazer and tailored trousers marched toward him. Margaret Voss, the billionaire mogul whose name adorned half the town's skyline. "Roadwork," Daniel replied steadily, offering no apology. Margaret's gaze dropped to his daughter. "Who's this?" "Emma." "She's with me." Margaret's brow furrowed. "This isn't a nursery, Mr. Reed. You're here to work with." A deafening crash echoed from within. From the grand hall emerged a tempest in human form. Lila Voss, 17, Margaret's only child. Barefoot, in an oversized couture sweatshirt, her auburn hair a tangle, she wore the smug grin of someone who just pulled off a heist. "Governess number 12 is history," Lila sang, tossing a ping-pong ball into the air. "Who's the next fool?" Daniel's eyes met hers. They didn't waver, didn't widen, didn't look away like most. Instead, he crouched to her level. "That'd be me," he said. "But I'm not here to play governess. I'm here to keep you from torching this place." For the first time, Lila's grin wavered. The heavy oak doors thudded shut behind them, and Daniel's work boots echoed on the polished granite floor. Emma trailed beside him, clutching his hand as if stepping into a lion's den. The estate was absurd, chandeliers gleaming like crystal cascades, a sculpture that could have been stolen from a gallery, and stairways spiraling to nowhere. But it wasn't the opulence that struck Daniel. It was the hollowness. No warmth, no signs of life beyond the faint whiff of lavender and the tap of a girl's nails on the railing. "This way," Lila said, her tone dripping with mockery as she led him to the parlor. "Watch your step on the granite." "It's from Portugal." Emma blinked up at her. "Why does it matter where it's from?" she asked, genuinely puzzled. Lila paused for a split second. No one had ever challenged her sarcasm like that, especially not a child. "Because it's pricey," she said flatly. "Pricey doesn't mean better," Emma replied, shrugging before wandering to a shelf of leather-bound books. Daniel hid a grin. His daughter had just thrown the first jab in this quiet battle. Lila sprawled on a cream velvet sofa, grabbing a remote and flipping through channels without glancing at him. "So, what's your deal? Think you're gonna fix me like the others?" Daniel set his canvas bag down and sat across from her. "No, I'm here to make sure you don't destroy yourself." That got a sharp glance. She was used to people coddling or avoiding her. This man did neither. "You're supposed to follow my rules," she snapped. "Nah," Daniel said calmly. "I follow rules that keep people safe and out of trouble. If that's a problem, fire me now and save us both the hassle." For a moment, she looked ready to erupt. But then Emma wandered back, holding a worn copy of Charlotte's Web. "Do you like this book?" she asked Lila. Lila's eyes flicked to the cover, and something in her softened, so brief Daniel almost missed it. She didn't answer, just took the book and placed it beside her. It was the tiniest spark of vulnerability, but Daniel saw it, and so did Emma. Supper was a war zone. The ebony dining table could have seated 30, but only 4 sat tonight. Margaret at one end, glued to her tablet, Lila halfway down, earbuds in, Daniel beside Emma at the other end. The silence was so thick you could hear the faint hum of the wine cooler from the pantry. Daniel didn't need chatter to feel at ease, but even he felt the chill of this place. It wasn't just the air conditioning. It was the way no one met each other's eyes, no one smiled, no one cared. Emma, being Emma, broke the tension. "Miss Lila, do you like tacos?" Lila tugged out an earbud and gave her a side eye. "Why?" "'Cause Dad makes the best tacos ever." Wait, better than this, she said, poking at the delicate quail on her plate. Daniel shot her a look, half warning, half amused. Lila tilted her head, smirking. You think you can cook better than a Michelin star chef? I know I can, Daniel said without missing a beat. Margaret finally looked up from her tablet, brows raised. Mr. Reed, cooking isn't in your job description. Maybe not, Daniel replied. But eating food you actually like should be part of everyone's life. For a split second, curiosity flickered in Lila's eyes. She masked it with a scoff, shoving her plate away. Whatever. I'm not hungry. Supper ended in icy silence, but Daniel could sense it. Lila was plotting something, and she didn't keep him waiting. It happened the next afternoon. Daniel had stepped outside to help Emma find the soccer net by the stables. When he returned, the house was too quiet. Lila, he called. No response. He found her on the terrace outside her room, standing on the ledge in bare feet, arms outstretched like she might leap into the sky. His stomach lurched. Get down. She glanced back, a defiant spark in her eyes. Chill. It's not that far. Daniel stepped closer, voice steady but firm. You fall from there, you could snap your spine. Then I'm stuck explaining to your mother how I let her daughter die on my second day. Maybe that's the point, she muttered, barely audible. But he caught it. That one line revealed everything. This wasn't just a stunt. It was a cry for something deeper, something raw. He didn't shout or threaten. Instead, he said, You think no one would care, but I would. And so would Emma. Her balance wavered, not from fear, but from shock. No one had said that to her before. Daniel extended his hand. You don't need to pull stunts to be seen. Just come down. After a long pause, she stepped back onto the terrace and brushed past him without a word. Daniel let her go. Pressing now would only push her further away. But he'd glimpsed behind her armor for a moment. This girl wasn't just trouble, she was in pain. And he was determined to understand why. The night air in the estate was oppressively still, not peaceful, but stifling. Daniel sat in the kitchen long after Emma was asleep, elbows on the counter, a mug of tea cooling in his hands. The terrace incident replayed in his mind, not just Lila on that ledge, but the way she'd said, maybe that's the point. It wasn't defiance for kicks. It was something darker. He wasn't hired to pry into her life, but he knew enough about kids who acted out to know behavior like hers wasn't random. It was a defense. A faint noise broke the quiet, not footsteps, but a soft thump, then another. He followed it through the corridor and up the back stairs, moving silently. A faint glow spilled from an open door. He peered inside and stopped. Lila sat cross-legged on the floor of her sprawling wardrobe, surrounded by designer bags and heels, tearing a photo into slow, deliberate pieces. That picture owe you money? Daniel asked, leaning against the doorframe. She flinched, spinning around. Don't you knock. Not when I hear someone shredding their past. She glared but didn't snap back. Her fingers tightened around the photo scraps. It was my dad, she said finally. Not anymore. Daniel stayed quiet. Silence often got more than questions. She tossed the pieces into a bin. He left 3 years ago. Didn't even leave a note. Mom pretends he was never here, so I guess I have to too. Daniel stepped inside, his boots soft on the plush rug. And the governesses. They were all fake too. They smiled at Mom, acted like they cared about me, but I heard them in the pantry calling me entitled, unfixable, a waste of time. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of pain. So I made sure they didn't stick around. Daniel studied her. So you push everyone away before they can ditch you. She scoffed. Wow, great detective work. But her usual venom was gone, like she was daring him to leave too. Instead, he pulled a folded paper from his pocket, Emma's drawing from earlier, showing the three of them outside the estate, all smiling. The lines were crooked, the colors wild, but the meaning was clear. He handed it to her. Emma made this. You didn't scare her off. Lila stared at the drawing, then at him. She's just a kid. Yeah, and kids don't lie. If she didn't like you, you'd know. For a fleeting moment, her guard dropped. Then she stuffed the drawing into her sweatshirt pocket. Don't think this means I like you, she muttered, standing. Wouldn't assume it, Daniel said, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. As he left her room, he knew one thing. Lila wasn't just testing him anymore. She was watching, waiting to see if he'd bail like the rest. And Daniel had no intention of giving her that satisfaction. A storm hit without warning, not just rain, but a ferocious deluge that pounded the estate's glass walls and made the pines outside bend dangerously. Thunder roared, sharp and sudden, and a light flickered somewhere in the house. Daniel was in the kitchen brewing tea for Emma, who was huddled on the sofa with a quilt. She'd always hated storms, not the rain, but its unpredictability. "Dad, will it get worse?" Emma asked softly. Daniel crouched beside her. "We're safe here, kid. Sturdy house, backup power, nothing to worry about." Another thunderclap shook the windows, and then he heard it. A crash upstairs, heavier than something merely falling. "Stay here," he told Emma, already heading for the stairs. He found Lila in the upstairs corridor, clutching the doorframe outside her room. The power flickered again, casting shadows over her tense face. "What happened?" he asked. She didn't respond. Daniel stepped into her room and stopped. The terrace door had blown open, and papers, books, and clothes swirled in the wind. A metal shelving unit had fallen, blocking the terrace entrance. But it wasn't the chaos that halted him. It was the girl on the terrace. Not Lila. She was small, maybe 14, with soaked hair and bare feet, arms wrapped around herself in the pouring rain. Lila's voice cut through. "She's not supposed to be here." "Who is she?" Daniel demanded. "Her name's Chloe. She's from the youth center I visit sometimes. I told her she could come if she needed a place." Lila's words spilled out, faster now, like she knew she'd crossed a line. "Mom can't know. She'll lose it." "Please." The wind howled, and Chloe swayed slightly. That was enough for Daniel. He stepped onto the terrace, scooped her up, and carried her inside without hesitation. "Get me a towel," he told Lila, firm but not harsh. She hesitated, maybe stunned by his quick action, then ran to grab one. 10 minutes later, Chloe was wrapped in a quilt, sitting on Lila's bed with a steaming mug of tea. Emma had crept upstairs and now sat cross-legged on the floor, watching her with wide eyes. "It was rough at the center tonight," Chloe said quietly. "Too many people fights. I couldn't stay." Lila stared at her hands. "She's been there since her dad threw her out. I didn't know where else she could go." Daniel looked at the two girls. This wasn't the work of a spoiled kid. It was someone who cared but didn't trust enough to show it openly. "You did right bringing her here," he said. "But next time you call me first. No terrace stunts in a storm." "Deal." Lila glanced at him, then at Chloe, and nodded. "Deal." Later, after Chloe was settled in a guest room and Emma was asleep, Lila lingered in the kitchen doorway while Daniel rinsed the mugs. "Why didn't you tell Mom?" she asked. Daniel didn't look up. "Because you trusted me with something." "I'm not breaking that." A long silence followed. Then softly she said, "Most people think I'm just trouble." Daniel dried his hands and met her gaze. "No, you're just tired of people giving up on you." She held his eyes for a moment, and this time she didn't look away. For the first time since he'd walked through those doors, Daniel knew he wasn't just chipping away at her walls. He was helping her rebuild something she thought she'd lost for good.